Hey, everybody, I'm Sara Wiseman. I wanted to talk to you today about a pretty serious subject, which is about the idea of how to work spiritually when you have a disease such as cancer or some other serious disease. I came to this particular part of my work. I had melanoma back in 2012, and luckily, had a couple surgeries and everything turned out okay. But during the process, I learned a lot. And I worked from the moment I had the diagnosis until after the second surgery. I put myself in a continual state of meditation and working with the guides. And I didn't really plan on doing this. I just was so fearful and so anxious, I couldn't really think of any other way to approach this. I just surrendered completely to the higher realms. And what happened was pretty amazing. And I wanted to share this with you in case you or somebody you know is suffering from some serious illness. I can't promise that if you do these techniques that I did, that you will heal yourself. I don't know that, but I do know that there are traditional medicine is just one aspect of healing. Alternative medicine is just one aspect. Spiritual healing, not the kind where you're, two levels. One, the kind where you're having somebody else, an energy healer, work on you, but also the kind where you are connecting to the universe and asking, how do I heal this physical container? Universe, tell me how. So you can, there's two ways to kind of access this work. There's this book, Intuition, Cancer and Miracles. And then there's also the course I have by the same name, Intuition, Cancer and Miracles. And the book talks about my experience and what I went through and how I went through this process. Super not fun process, super intensive, and yet also filled with huge understanding, because always, whenever we receive the jolt of getting a diagnosis, right, this is one of the ways that the universe is waking us up to something else, to something new. In my own life, I've kind of been on cruise control for a while, and the universe wanted to say, hey, look, there's more you need to understand about your essence, about your soul nature, as opposed to just the life of the human body. This idea of being around for many lifetimes, not just one. The idea of trusting that we can, when we work in spiritual intuition, we are working with the guides sort of in this space. Maybe some people think it's above us or in the higher realms. And actually the same level of guidance is within our bodies. Our bodies are guides too. The parts of our bodies, our systems, our organs, our cells. And so we can begin to ask our bodies, by going into the different systems and by going into the different specific places, we can ask, what do you need? What's going on? How can I help you? How can I give you what you need? And this process of understanding that guidance isn't just outside of us when we meditate, or it's not outside of us in our, in the events that happen to us, the signs and synchronicities, but also it's the wisdom within our bodies. We can access that in the same way that we would the guides. The most important things I did in terms of my own process, where I had 7 meditations that I did, and I just want to read you these. These are all in the course recorded, and they're in the book written out. First, my first task was overcoming anxiety and fear. That for me, At that time, I was a super anxious person. I was super sensitive, had a huge fear of all things medical. And then the diagnosis, I was just flabbergasted and couldn't manage that. At that time, I had little kids or younger children, at least. They weren't little, but so overcoming anxiety and fear. How do we get through the day when everything is consumed by this thought? Something's wrong with me. I might die. Something's wrong with me. I might die. How do we get out of that and get through our day? And one of the things I did, I began to listen to mantra and mantra music. You get it on, whatever streaming service you use. I began to listen to mantra pretty much nonstop, because one of the things mantra does is it interrupts the brain from thinking the thoughts, oh no, oh no, oh no, to go on to the rhythm and the word of the mantra. It gives the brain something else to do besides worry. And this immediately lets the body relax and attend to the process of healing. The other thing I began to tune into the state of the body. And I would go in and say, okay, foot, how are you? Neck, how are you? And just visit the body in a way I never had before. I used to kind of just think, here's my body. But when you go inside and sort of visit this incredible system, this symbiotic system that you have, what's going on there? And I began to go into meditation and ask, how are you doing? This needs help. This needs help. This is fine. This is fine. I began to get a sense of how the whole was doing and what support it needed in terms of nutrition or sleep or other practices. The third meditation I did is I continually asked for help from angels and guides. This might be more like an idea of praying all the time, but for me, it was also this specific practice of going up, sitting with the guides and asking them for their advice on how to deal with this situation. And in this book, I had forgotten this part until I looked recently, but I received a number of messages about my situation in channeling. And that was quite remarkable to me that those things came through. I received direct channeled messaging of, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay, which was enormously helpful as I got used to that idea of, working through the medical process, hearing continually from the guides, you're going to be okay. Meditation 4, receiving support from departed loved ones. And so here, it's kind of remarkable. My father had died maybe 8 years prior to my diagnosis, and he died of cancer. And he is a departed that we had a good relationship, and he's a departed that has come forward quite a bit in my life, especially during, difficult times. And he was a very funny man and had a lot of silly jokes and liked to do puns and word games. And when he came forward as a departed, he was wearing sort of like a tool outfit, like a contractor might wear. And the funny thing is that, like, my father didn't even know how to use a hammer, right? He couldn't do anything like that. So he showed up as the departed with this toolkit on. And then he showed me this little house that I realized was like the house to death. And then he showed me that this house was completely boarded up, hammering boards, the entrance was closed. He's like, you're not going there. And so this funny, strange, weird pun in my father's funny, strange pun way really gave me so much comfort. And I know that for all of you guys, these things that I've mentioned of overcoming anxiety, tuning into your own body, connecting with your own guides and angels, and then getting the support of your own departed. all of this starts to stack up and you're feeling supported. You're feeling supported. And this helps you relax and begin this process of healing. And then I began to work with the body at a cellular level. So would go in, not just tuning into my body, but go in and begin to ask the very cells of the areas that I was dealing with to treat them as if they were guides and ask them what they needed, what they required, what they wanted. You can do this too. And then as this process began, I still didn't know in my own situation, I still didn't know. I had this information, it was going to be okay. I had my departed father saying everything was fine. And I still didn't know, like the doctors hadn't said that. The doctors were like, we don't know yet. We have to do the surgery. We have to do the other surgery. We have to do all the, things they do. I didn't know. And so in this state of not knowing, and those of you who've got a serious situation, in this state of not knowing, I was just flooded with gratitude for the life I'd had. People talk about they see their life flash before them. And that was that experience of going into meditation and seeing my life, this lifetime. Wow, I got to experience this, and I got to speak this, and these are the other souls I journeyed with, and this is what I've learned, and oh my gracious, I am so grateful. And that, of course, not the purpose, but the effect was lifting vibration even further, more healing. Reviewing this lifetime, like, wow. And then the last part, and this was maybe the trickiest and also the best and the most important, this idea of when you're in this state of not knowing, and I guess I would say we're always in a state of not knowing every single minute. We don't know. The newborn does not know how long, the newborn may not live longer than you or me. We just don't know. We just don't know how long we have. And so accepting this, just because the lifetime average was this, lots of people don't make the average. Lots of people live longer. Accepting that we are infinite souls. This is one lifetime. We've had so many lifetimes before. We're going to have so many. Consciousness doesn't die. The body, yes, going to die. The consciousness not. And coming down to this and sort of realizing that this was a very real possibility. And in fact, maybe a more likely possibility with a particular thing that I had going on, and coming to terms with, okay, this might be what I'm facing. And coming to terms with that, as opposed to not looking at it and saying, oh, it's not possible. It's possible for any of us, right? Whether we're sick or not sick, or young or old or whatever, we're not in charge. We're not in charge of our lifespan. So looking at that straight on, looking at the mortality that each of us has and the infinite nature that each of us has, and kind of holding both of those at the same time. I hope that, I know if you've come to this video and you found it, you're most likely looking for some support. Again, I can't promise that these things will work for you, but in terms of final healing, who knows? I'm not in charge of that, but hopefully it will provide you some support and some ways of tuning into the physical container, and some ways of thinking about any kind of illness or problem that you're having in your body. You can find the book again, Intuition, Cancer, and Miracles, and the course of the same name. And they're both at sarawiseman.com. Thanks for listening.